I was always saying good afternoon. I hope you can hear me at the back of the room. I hope you can. I am not going to talk about cybersecurity. You might say, wow, why not? But the reason is simple. You know more than me about cybersecurity. I know little about it, but I wanted to say something about cybersecurity at the end of my presentation. I'm going to talk to you about economy and what is going on. So I would like to ask you to do the following. As I speak, please incorporate what I say to your world, to your expertise, to your daily activities, to your day-to-day things. There's a concept you're very familiar with. It's the concept of trend. Trend, as you know, is not a snapshot of something at one point in time. This is what politicians do. But trend is made up by a chronological series of data that are used to build journeys, etc., to manufacture, let's put it this way, trends. Trends have worked very well, and this is only an example. This is the evolution of the real GDP of the world between 1962 and I projected this to 2023. This is a clear trend, and you can see a clear trend in this regard. This is no longer the case. Trends, the chronological series that were used to build trends passed away when coronavirus showed up. This is the percentage of variation of the GDP in the world. This is the red line of all the countries. And in green, you can see the OECD countries, the GDP of OECD countries. In the circle, you see the drop in 2008, 9, and 10. That was very significant, as you can see. But except for that point, because the recovery happened afterwards, you see how since 1970 to date, the variations were never above 2 or below 2. This is a global level. So we could build trends. We could build differences. So with this spectacular drop that happened in 2020 as a result of virus, these trends died. So we need to build new trends from now on. So the first conclusion, now the first minutes I've been talking to you, is that it is impossible, and the sector is exactly the same, it's impossible to draw conclusions or create plans or design strategies based on old data. That's what I call the black swan. You know what a black swan is. This breaks absolutely the trend, which requires us to go beyond. As you can see here, and you might say, you're cheating, but yeah, please hold on a minute. This is the annual variation of GDP, of the GDP of advanced economies in the blue line. The emerging economies is the orange line, and the world GDP in gray over the last 47 years. Now, this is a forecast up until 2027. That was prepared by the International Monetary Fund. And then the dotted lines are the trend lines, meaning trends tell us that the world is practically stagnating. The world moved from 3.3 to 3.2, or will move to 3.2. The emerging economies have a trend upwards, but as you can see, the trend is very mild because they move from 3.3 to 3.4, or 4.3, I'm sorry, 3.2 to 4.3, and emerging economy have a lower variation. So over the last 47 years, we've included the recession in 1991, the beginning of the crisis of 2007, the drop of 1987. Everything has been included. So the period of time is long to see the trends. But let's zoom a little bit things and let's take only the 10 last years. Same thing applies. In blue, you will have the emerging economies, in orange, advanced economies, and in gray, the world. See what happens here. If we take the last 10 years and until 2027, from 2017 to 2027, just let me explain you something before. 2019 is always considered as the last regular normal year, and this is not true. In 2019, the economy was going down since 2018, so the last normal year was 2017. So emerging economies, 2017 altogether, 4.7 growth, and in 2017 they will move to 4.3. Advanced economy 2.5 to 1.7. The world from 3.7 to 3.2. So, as you know, when we work with trends, 3.2, 3.1 is exactly the same, or 3.3. The important thing is, and the clear message to send, and this is the second conclusion we can draw from this while we've been talking, is that the world is not going to a better situation, but it's going to stagnation. It would take 27 as a deadline. So advanced economies more than emerging economies. And as I said before, please apply this to the sectors you consider appropriate, because everything is related to economics, and so as you know, the Chaos theory said that a butterfly moves the wings in Vancouver. This will have an impact in the other part of the world. So what happens? These are the forecasts of a series of organizations since April 19th this year to October 18th this year. That was the day before yesterday. Yes, the last forecast published on the Spanish economy. So this chart, we could be talking about this chart for only 30 minutes, but time passes and we cannot stop now to talk about this. So let's see what happens. The forecast of different organizations, the IMF, the Bank of Spain, the OECD, the government again, for the budget plan, BBVA Bank, again, the autumn report, the International Monetary Fund, and FUNCAS, the Savings Banks Federation. So let's see what happened. 2022. Everything agrees more or less. In 6 months, the period between April 19th to October 18th, more or less, there was no variation, practically no variation happened, except for the General Council of Economists that reduced this a little bit more. However, let's see what will happen in 2023. In 2023, on April 19th, the International Monetary Fund estimated a 3.3 growth for the Spanish economy on April 19th. On October 18th, FUNCAS reduces this to 3.7%. 0.7%, I'm sorry. So 0.7% with the expected inflation, with the expected deficit, with more things. This means an economy that might be qualified as stagnant, facing best scenario possible. If we were to go and to break down things per sector or industry and activity, the situation in Spain at this point in time would be very, very negative. Please look at me. we will be saved in brackets. We're going to be saved by the election, municipal election, regional election, and then general election in December. So Brussels will allow government to do many things for the election to happen in a peaceful way. So in Spain, the bad movement will be felt more in 2023 due to the structure problem in 2022. But 2023, it's going to be a very complicated year for Spain, for Europe, for the United States, etc. So now, going into all the details, we can see something important, because the government has taken 2.1%, as you can see in red, so has taken 2.1% as the growth rate to come up with a budget. If we grow 0.7, imagine what is going to happen. Moving forward, see what we can see. We get to 2025, growth drop in 2023. We're talking about October the 18th, and this is a forecast of the International Monetary Fund. So 2.6 in 2022, 2.7 in 2025, and then it goes back again down. It goes down again. So things seem to take off, but the machine is dragging so many contamination that the driving engine is not going to be running at the speed it should be running. But adding to this, the deficit and the general situation in Spain. So what are the expected trends? It is very important for you to think about your industry. The virus has been an accelerator. It's not worth mentioning this because it's obvious. Citizenship is less important for decision making. There are powers and elements that make decisions in this decision making period. Mobility is less important, less needed, and communications are more and more important. Of course, I don't have to explain to you anything because this is your world, your sphere, the world you live in and work in. Platforms for purchasing, television, communication, leisure platforms, and other kind of platforms, of course. See what the situation is like. The saving a role in Spain. Remember what Ronald Reagan said when he took office in the United States, when he said the state is the problem. Without the state, economies would have collapsed today. Capital concentration. You see, capital is concentrating, walking towards oligopoly. Work is less important, and technology is increasingly important. Why is that? Because efficiency is becoming increasingly important as understood as productivity and sustainability. If productivity is not accompanied by sustainability, it's not accepted, which it's not accepted even in political terms. Flexibility should be maximum, total, absolute, complete. And please bear this concept in mind. I don't know if you already deal with it, because this is the trendy concept in the next years. The concept of resilience. As you know, resilience is defined with very complex concept, but at the end of the day, the idea behind is the capability to hold on, whatever, to bear anything, whatever comes, and also the absolute protagonist value of technology. I'm going to talk about some details now. As I said before, productivity with sustainability will be key. This was taken from a study of Bloomberg. The evolution of productivity in France, Italy, Germany, and Spain, Germany black, France gray, Spain gray but lighter, and Italy is the dotted line. So this means this is Spain, this is Italy, this is France, and this is the United States. If we take the index 100 productivity in the United States, so this 100 index is 1,935. The vertical line is when the study was conducted. So there's areas here are reality. This is what was going on at the bottom of the line. Bloomberg apply a metric model to predict trends and productivity. So needless to say, what is the way ahead for Spain and Italy, for France and for Germany as well. Again, the line being a little lower or a little upper, that is not important. This means that Spain goes towards a stagnated economy with the very low productivity or stagnating. So productivity will drop in Spain compared to that of 1995. Let's see what the situation of Italy is like now, and the productivity success of these countries is going down. So this chart is very complicated. Of course, I cannot go into all the details now, but I would like to urge you, please, whenever we finish this session, please go and search this from Oxford University, the IQS, and study this probability study. In this study, you will see this chart, and this chart indicates the study is the probability of employment destruction according to the sector or the industry, administration, IT, education, etc. So please take a look at this. It's not good. It's my fault, I'm sorry, says the speaker. The slide is not good, but IT will lose not many jobs. When I talk about losing, I'm talking about automation, actually, robotization. If you remember what I said before about productivity, at the end of the day, productivity is key for GDP generation. This is a study by Société Générale in 2005, and what they did was to apply an econometric model to different variables of all these countries, and they forecast the model until the year 2050. You might say, oh, Spain is the one that drops the most, but this is not important now. The important thing is that all these economies go down. They all drop, which is what I said before. But I insist, regardless of who is falling more or the quantity of the drop, the important thing is they all go down, or they all drop. So this somehow is complemented by this other chart taken from an OECD study conducted in 2014. In 2014, something very curious happened. The OECD published 4 surveys that analyzed things taking the year 2060 as scenario. If you go to the OECD website, you will find these surveys. So, we are here. This is 2022. This is taking in decades. 2010, 2020, 2050, 2060. Before, black represents the world, then non-OECD member countries is the dotted line. Please let me remind you that Brazil or China are not members of the OECD, and then lighter dotted OECD are OECD countries. I'm sorry. So we are here. The OECD member states, from now on, they will see their growth reduced. This reduction is not very pronounced, but it is reduced, however. So some of the members of the OECD will not continue being part of the OECD, not the opposite way. So in the 2050-60 decade, the OECD members will grow at a rate lower than the growth rate of 2010. So in terms of growth, it seems that half a century would have volatilized. So this is a tragedy. We can see here all the African countries, etc., and the world as a whole will be in a worse situation if compared to 2010. I'm sorry. So the third conclusion we might draw from this presentation, or probably the fourth conclusion, is that the world is not going better. Inequality increases, and this has been taken from the same survey. Black lines is the inequality, the estimated inequality in 2060. This was made by the OECD. Spain is here. Of course, inequality will be increased in Spain, but in absolutely all the countries, inequalities will grow in absolutely all of the countries. Why is that? Well, because there is a capital concentration that is being produced. Now, as to, because we said efficiency is the addition of productivity and sustainability. Okay. On these charts, taken from a Canadian publication, the Canadian Observer, is a chart which is an irony actually, because you can see the CO2 concentration in the air. And even if you cannot read this, believe me, because these are the climate summits that were held starting in Rio in 1992, the famous Rio summit of 1992. Last summit was Chile, Mali 2020. So you see what happens, right? As summits are celebrated, the CO2 concentration in the air increases. What does this mean? It means that what is happening somehow is, and I'm not talking about countries, I'm talking about companies now. Those companies that can increase their productivity while being more sustainable will have an extra point in competitiveness if compared versus other companies. So we're going towards what? To new normal. So this is a summary. Capital concentration, less need of a labor force, globalization a la carte, new normal, technology that is omnipresent, decline of states. Who invented this term, back to normal? Joseph Ackerman, who was the CEO of Deutsche Bank, in a press release in Madrid. In this press release, he launched the concept of going back to normal. So this is a situation summarizing everything I mentioned before, and this is obviously the situation we'll all have to face. As I said, I will be talking about a little bit about your industry. So this is a chart from the OECD. Also, I suggest you to take a look at the OECD website because they have many interesting things. You can have here the percentage of tasks that can be developed online per sector, divided by sector, by industry, all the activities. And this chart is good because you have the region where work online happens the most, and the regions where online working happens the least. So let's see what the situation is in Spain. So you can see all the countries, the OECD member states, etc. Spain is here. On average, in Spain is here, 31% of tasks can be done online. With the minimum standard, the Balearic Islands that can develop 24%, and the maximum level is the autonomous region of Madrid that can have 42% of the work done online. It depends on the structures and the development, technological development of each region. So 31%, that you might say, well, this is not bad, right? So 31% of your work done online, but take a look what happens on the top of the chart. Luxembourg is always different, but the UK. So the average is 41%, and the region of Stockholm or London can more than 50% of work can be done online. So what is it going to happen? What is going to happen is, on the one hand, productivity is going to increase. So time is up. I've heard the sound beeping. I have one more minute. Yes, so our productivity will increase, and the competitiveness is going to increase as well. And please take a look at that. You know the world in made by this publication every year. So take a look at this chart. This chart talks about the likelihood of having 50% of these tasks on the left throughout a year to be developed by machines. According to this survey, in 2241, up until 75% of all the tasks developed today by humans could be developed or will be developed by robots. In 2241, you might say, oh, that's a long way to go until this moment, but in historic times this is not a long time. So facing all this will be impossible if you don't guarantee security in data transmission and communications and operations. This would be impossible. I would have liked to stay longer with you, but I'm told that I have to go. So thank you very much.